I am Abigail, 32 years old. When my phone pinged with a text from my sister Sophia, I never expected it would be the start of a financial nightmare. There on my screen was a photo of our parents standing next to a brand new Lexus, followed by another message. An invoice for half the cost of that luxury car, a gift I never agreed to give. Before I dive into this wild story, I would love to know where you are watching this from. Drop it in the comments below. Hit that like and subscribe button if family drama speaks to your soul, and stick around to find out what happens when the bank comes knocking at my sister's perfect door. Growing up as the older sister in our family, I always felt like I was living in Sophia's shadow. 4 years younger than me, Sophia somehow managed to capture our parents' hearts in ways I never could. While I pursued a career in software engineering at a mid-sized tech company, working my way up through dedication and long hours, Sophia took a different path. She landed a job at a prestigious financial firm right after college. At least that's what she told everyone. With her seemingly high salary and designer clothes, she projected an image of success that our parents ate up like candy. Every family dinner became a showcase for Sophia's latest accomplishments, while my steady career progress barely received acknowledgement. Our father Frank taught high school mathematics before retiring 3 years ago. He's a kind man, but has always had a soft spot for Sophia. I remember him driving 2 hours to attend her dance recitals, but somehow always being too busy when I had science fairs. Our mother Linda works as a medical assistant at the local hospital. She's in her early 60s now, but shows no signs of slowing down. Mom has always been Sophia's biggest cheerleader, collecting newspaper clippings of every minor achievement and displaying them proudly on the refrigerator. The dynamic in our family was established early. Sophia brought home perfect report cards and won school popularity contests. She was the homecoming queen, the student body president, the girl everyone wanted to be friends with. I was the quiet one who excelled in math and science, but struggled to find my social footing. While I wasn't unpopular, I certainly didn't command attention the way my sister did. "You should smile more, Abigail," my mother would say. "Look at how Sophia lights up a room when she walks in." These seemingly innocent comparisons built up over the years, creating an unspoken competition that I never signed up for. After college, I focused on building my career and paying down my student loans. The tech industry isn't always kind to women, so I had to work twice as hard to prove myself. My apartment is modest, but comfortable, located in a safe neighborhood about 30 minutes from my parents' home. I'm not struggling, but I'm careful with my finances. My goal has always been to save enough for a down payment on a house of my own. Sophia, meanwhile, moved into a luxury apartment downtown. She drives a BMW, wears designer clothes, and takes exotic vacations that fill her Instagram feed. At family gatherings, she arrives with expensive wines and gifts, reinforcing her image as the successful daughter. What none of us knew was that this facade was built on credit cards and loans. Our parents' car, a 15-year-old Toyota Camry, has been showing signs of age for years. The transmission makes concerning noises, the air conditioning works sporadically at best, and the upholstery is worn through in several places. Dad jokes that he and the car are aging together, both making unusual noises when they start up in the morning. Mom has mentioned wanting something more reliable, especially for their weekend trips to visit my grandmother, who lives about 100 miles away. Last Christmas, I gifted them a comprehensive service package for the Camry. It wasn't glamorous, but it was practical and within my budget. Sophia gave them a weekend at a luxury spa resort. When they returned glowing from massages and gourmet meals, Sophia made sure to mention how much the staff had complimented her generosity. The implication was clear, and my gift didn't measure up. I've tried discussing this dynamic with my parents, but they dismiss my concerns. "You're imagining things," Dad would say. "We love both our daughters equally." But actions speak louder than words, and their actions have always shouted their preference. Janet, my best friend since college, has witnessed this imbalance firsthand. "Your parents don't see how Sophia manipulates them," she told me once after a particularly painful family dinner. "They're blinded by her charm." Janet might be right, but understanding the problem doesn't make it hurt any less. For years, I've struggled with feelings of inadequacy, wondering what I could have done differently to earn the same level of adoration my sister receives effortlessly. What I didn't realize was that Sophia's perfect life was a house of cards built on deception and debt, and soon that house would come crashing down, dragging our entire family into the rubble. It was a Tuesday afternoon when my phone chimed with a text message from Sophia. I was in the middle of debugging a complex piece of code at work, but I welcomed the brief distraction. Opening the message, I saw a photo that made my stomach drop. There stood our parents beaming with joy beside a brand new silver Lexus ES sedan parked in their driveway. The car gleamed in the sunlight, a sharp contrast to their aging Camry that had faithfully served them for 15 years. Surprised Mom and Dad with their dream car today, they deserve the best. Best daughter ever, reads Sophia's caption. My first reaction was a complicated mix of emotions. Happiness for my parents, who deserved a reliable vehicle, but also that familiar sting of inadequacy. I couldn't afford to buy them a luxury car on my software engineer's salary, not while still paying down student loans and saving for my own future. I sent back a quick congratulatory text, trying to sound enthusiastic despite the knot in my stomach. Wow, that's amazing. They must be thrilled. Very generous of you. Sophia responded immediately with a string of heart emojis. They cried Dad kept saying he never thought he'd own a Lexus. Mom's already planning road trips. I put my phone down and tried to refocus on my work, but concentration was impossible. The image of my parents' delighted faces kept floating in my mind, along with the uncomfortable knowledge that I could never have given them such an extravagant gift. 20 minutes later, my email notification sounded. It was from Sophia, with the subject line, "Car costs your share." Confused, I opened it to find a spreadsheet detailing the cost of the Lexus $50,000 total, with a neat column showing Sophia's contribution and Abigail's contribution, split evenly at $25,000 each. I stared at the screen, certain this must be some kind of joke. There was no prior discussion about co-purchasing a car for our parents. I never agreed to this arrangement. Yet here was an invoice as formal as if I'd signed a contract with payment terms and a due date just 2 weeks away. Attached was a brief note. Hey, sis. As discussed, here's the breakdown for Mom and Dad's new car. I figured we should split it evenly since we're both responsible for taking care of our parents. I've already paid the dealership in full, so you can just transfer your half to my account. They're so happy with us. As discussed. We had never discussed anything of the sort. My hands shook as I reached for my phone and called her immediately. Hey, Abby, Sophia answered cheerfully. Did you get my email? Isn't it exciting? Sophia, what is this? I struggled to keep my voice steady. We never discussed buying Mom and Dad a car together. Oh, don't be such a stickler for details, she laughed. I saw the perfect opportunity and I took it. The dealership was having a special promotion. That's not the point, I said, feeling my temper rising. You can't just decide I'm spending $25,000 without consulting me first. Her tone shifted instantly from cheerful to cold. I thought you'd be happy to do something nice for our parents. They've done everything for us, Abigail. Don't you think they deserve this? Of course they deserve nice things, but that's not the issue here. I have financial commitments, plans for my future. I can't just pull $25,000 out of thin air because you decided to play the perfect daughter. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line. Is that what you think this is about? What else would it be? You buy them this expensive gift, make sure they know it's from both of us, and then expect me to foot half the bill. This isn't about them, it's about maintaining your image. You're just jealous because I'm successful enough to do this for them, Sophia snapped. Some of us actually made something of ourselves after college. The words stung exactly as she intended. I've made plenty of myself. I just don't measure my worth by the price tags of the gifts I give. Whatever helps you sleep at night, she said dismissively. The fact is, I've already told Mom and Dad this is from both of us. If you back out now, you'll break their hearts. Is that what you want? And there it was, the manipulation tactic she'd perfected over the years. Make me the bad guy if I didn't comply with her plans. This conversation isn't over, I said firmly. But I'm not paying for a car I didn't agree to buy. We'll see about that, she replied before hanging up. I sat at my desk staring at the email, the reality of the situation sinking in. Sophia had effectively cornered me. She'd already presented the car as a joint gift. If I refused to pay, I'd look like the ungrateful daughter who wouldn't contribute to making our parents happy. But if I paid, I'd be draining my savings and enabling Sophia's manipulative behavior. Either way, I lost. And Sophia knew it. The next morning, I called Janet on my way to work, desperate for an objective perspective on this mess. She did what? Janet exclaimed after I explained the situation. Abigail, that's not just manipulative, it's borderline financial abuse. You are not responsible for paying for a gift you never agreed to give. But she's already told my parents it's from both of us. I sighed, switching lanes on the highway. If I don't pay, I look like the ungrateful daughter who doesn't care enough about her parents to contribute to a nice gift. That's exactly what she wants you to think, Janet said firmly. She's counting on your guilt to make you comply. But think about it: if your parents knew the truth that Sophia made this unilateral decision and is now trying to force you to pay for it, would they really want that? Janet had a point. My parents might be somewhat blind to Sophia's manipulative tendencies, but they were fundamentally good people who wouldn't want me to suffer financially. You need to talk to your parents, Janet continued. Explain your financial situation and tell them you weren't consulted about this purchase. The thought of confronting my parents made my stomach churn. I don't know, Janet. You know how they are with Sophia. They might just think I'm being petty or jealous. Then let them think that, Janet said bluntly. But at least you'll have stood up for yourself. You can't keep letting your sister walk all over you like this. When I arrived at work, 3 more texts from Sophia were waiting on my phone, each one more passive-aggressive than the last. Just checking if you saw my email about the car payment. Mom called to thank us again. She's so happy with our gift. I need to know by Friday if you're going to contribute your fair share. Otherwise, I'll have to explain to Mom and Dad why their gift has to go back to the dealership. The emotional blackmail was in full swing. I put my phone away and tried to focus on work, but my mind kept circling back to the impossible situation my sister had created. During my lunch break, my phone rang. It was my mother. Abigail, honey, I just had to call and thank you again for the beautiful car. Your father and I went for a drive this morning, and the seat warmers are just heavenly. We've never had such a luxury before. My throat tightened. I'm glad you like it, Mom. Like it? We love it. Sophia told us how you both planned this for months. It must have been so hard keeping it a secret. I should have corrected her right then. I should have explained that this was all Sophia's doing and that I knew nothing about it. But the joy in my mother's voice stopped me. How could I take that away from her? It's what you and Dad deserve, I managed to say. You girls are too generous. We raise such thoughtful daughters. After hanging up, I felt even worse. Now I was complicit in Sophia's lie. That evening, another email arrived from Sophia with the subject line, Payment Plan Options. Inside was a detailed breakdown of monthly payment options, complete with interest rates. She was treating me like a customer financing a purchase, not a sister who had been blindsided by an enormous unauthorized expense. That was the final straw. I drafted a formal email response, my fingers flying over the keyboard as years of pent-up frustration poured out. Dear Sophia, I am writing to formally decline participation in the purchase of our parents' new vehicle. While I appreciate the sentiment behind wanting to give them a nice gift, I was not consulted prior to this significant financial commitment, nor did I agree to contribute any amount. As you know, I am currently focused on paying down my student loans and saving for a home of my own. A $25,000 expense is not within my current financial capabilities, nor would it be a responsible decision for my future. I request that you immediately clarify with our parents that this gift was solely from you. If you chose to purchase a vehicle beyond your own means, with the expectation that I would cover half the cost, that was an assumption made without my consent. I value our relationship as sisters and our shared love for our parents, but I cannot allow financial decisions to be made on my behalf without my explicit agreement. Sincerely, Abigail. I read it over 3 times before hitting send, my heart pounding. This was the first time I had ever directly confronted Sophia's manipulative behavior, and I had no idea how she would respond. I didn't have to wait long to find out. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Are you serious right now? Sophia's voice was ice cold. After everything I've done to make our parents happy, you're just going to bail on me. I'm not bailing, Sophia. I never agreed to this in the first place. So what am I supposed to tell Mom and Dad, that their precious Abigail is too selfish to contribute to their happiness? Tell them the truth, I said firmly, that you bought them a car you couldn't afford and tried to force me to pay for half of it after the fact. They'll never believe that, she scoffed. They know we planned this together. Because that's what you told them, I pointed out. You lied to them, Sophia, not me. Fine, she snapped. I'll tell them their perfect eldest daughter refused to help with the family gift. I'm sure they'll understand completely. The threat hung in the air between us. We both knew how this would play out. Sophia would spin the story to make me look like the villain, and our parents, who had always seen her through rose-colored glasses, would likely believe her version. That night, I barely slept. I tossed and turned, imagining the disappointment on my parents' faces when they learned I wasn't contributing to their dream car. Would they think I didn't care? Would this confirm what they perhaps already believed, that Sophia was the better daughter? In the early hours of the morning, I decided to do some research. I looked up the Lexus model my parents had received and discovered something interesting: the financing options. Most people didn't pay for luxury vehicles outright, they financed them over several years. A suspicion formed in my mind. I dug deeper into Sophia's emails looking for clues. The payment schedule she had sent me was oddly specific, with monthly amounts rather than a lump sum. It almost looked like a car loan payment schedule. That's when it hit me. Sophia hadn't paid for the car in full, as she claimed. She had financed it and was now trying to get me to make the monthly payments. She hadn't spent $50,000 on our parents. She had committed to a loan and was trying to pass half the burden onto me. This wasn't just about forcing me to contribute to an expensive gift. This was about Sophia trying to escape financial responsibility for a purchase she couldn't actually afford. The realization strengthened my resolve. I would not be manipulated into paying for Sophia's reckless financial decision, no matter how she tried to frame it. The family dinner that weekend loomed like a storm cloud on the horizon. I considered making an excuse to avoid it, but I knew that would only delay the inevitable confrontation. Better to face this head on. I arrived at my parents' suburban home to find Sophia's BMW already parked in the driveway alongside the gleaming new Lexus. Taking a deep breath, I gathered my courage and walked to the front door. Before I could even knock, it swung open to reveal my mother's smiling face. "There's my other generous daughter," she exclaimed, pulling me into a tight hug. Over her shoulder, I caught sight of Sophia in the living room, raising her wine glass in a mock toast. The house looked the same as always: comfortable and well lived in. Family photos lined the walls, chronicling our growth from gap-toothed children to adults. I noticed not for the first time that Sophia featured prominently in these displays, her achievements and milestones celebrated in numerous frames. My own life events were present, but somehow less prominently featured. Dad emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a dish towel. "The chef has outdone himself tonight," he announced proudly. "He was making his famous pot roast, my favorite meal since childhood. At least that was something." "Abigail, come see the information packet for the car," Mom said, leading me to the dining table where a glossy brochure lay open. "It has all these amazing features we never thought we'd have. The navigation system alone is worth its weight in gold for your father, who refuses to admit when he's lost." "I'm never lost," Dad protested good-naturedly from the kitchen. "I'm just taking the scenic route." This normal, happy family interaction made what I had to do even harder. How could I disrupt this peace with the ugly truth? Sophia sauntered over, refilling our mother's wine glass before placing a deliberate hand on my shoulder. "Abigail and I wanted you to have nothing but the best, didn't we, sis?" Her eyes held a challenge, daring me to contradict her in front of our parents. I felt a familiar tightness in my chest, the same sensation I'd experienced throughout childhood, whenever Sophia put me in an impossible position. Dinner was served, and the conversation inevitably circled back to the car. Dad couldn't stop talking about the horsepower and torque, while Mom gushed about the leather seats and premium sound system. "We've already planned a road trip to see Grandma next month," Mom said excitedly. "The drive will be so much more comfortable now." "You girls really shouldn't have spent so much," Dad added, his voice thick with emotion. "But I can't say I'm not thrilled that you did." I pushed the pot roast around on my plate, appetite gone. Sophia, meanwhile, was playing her role perfectly, accepting their gratitude with practiced humility. "Actually," Sophia said, setting down her fork, "I should mention that Abigail has been having some financial concerns about her contribution to the car." And there it was, the ambush I'd been expecting. All eyes turned to me. "Financial concerns," Mom repeated, her brow furrowing. "What does that mean?" Sophia gave me a sympathetic look that didn't reach her eyes. "Abigail feels she might not be able to afford her share right now. I told her not to worry, that I could cover it until she's in a better position, but she seems resistant to the idea." The way she framed it made me sound both financially irresponsible and ungrateful. It was masterfully done, I had to admit. "Is that true, Abigail?" Dad asked, his expression concerned. "Are you having money troubles? You know you can always talk to us." The moment of truth had arrived. I could either continue the charade or stand up for myself. Looking at my parents' worried faces, I made my decision. "Actually, that's not quite accurate," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "The truth is, I didn't know anything about this car until after Sophia had already purchased it. I received an invoice from her demanding half the cost after the fact." The silence that followed was deafening. Mom's mouth opened and closed wordlessly, while Dad's expression darkened. "That can't be right," Mom finally said, looking between us. "Sophia told us you both planned this for months." "I'm afraid that's not true," I replied gently. I had no knowledge of this gift until Sophia texted me a photo of you with the car. Then she sent me an email requesting $25,000 as my share. Dad turned to Sophia. Is this true? Did you buy this car without consulting your sister and then expect her to pay for half of it? Sophia's composure slipped for just a moment before she recovered. I may have been a bit overeager to surprise everyone, she admitted. But I always intended for this to be from both of us. It's a family gift. I just assumed Abigail would want to contribute to making you both happy. By blindsiding me with a massive expense I never agreed to, I couldn't keep the edge from my voice. That's not how gifts work, Sophia. You don't commit someone else's money without their consent. I was trying to do something nice for our parents. Sophia snapped her facade, cracking further. Unlike you, I don't penny pinch when it comes to family. That's enough, Dad intervened, his voice firm. Sophia, answer me directly. Did you tell us this car was from both you and Abigail, knowing that Abigail had not agreed to this purchase? Put on the spot. Sophia hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. But it was supposed to be a surprise for everyone. I was going to work out the details with Abigail later. And by work out the details, you mean have me pay half of a $50,000 car without any prior discussion? I asked. Mom looked devastated. So this whole thing has been… What, a lie? Not a lie, Sophia insisted quickly. Just a misunderstanding about the timing of discussions. The gift is still real, the car is still yours. But it's not from both of us, I clarified. It's from Sophia alone, and apparently she's now realizing she bit off more than she could chew financially. Sophia's face flushed with anger. That's not true, I can afford this just fine. Then why are you so desperate for my money? I challenged. Because it's the principle, Sophia shouted, losing her composure completely. We should share responsibility for our parents' happiness. Dad raised his hands for silence. Both of you stop. This is not how we raised you to behave. He looked at the car keys sitting on the counter, then back at us. Sophia, what you did was wrong. You can't volunteer your sister's money without her consent, and you certainly shouldn't have lied to us about it being from both of you. Sophia's eyes filled with tears, but I could see the calculation behind them. Crying had always been her go-to move when cornered. I was just trying to do something special, she said, her voice breaking. I thought Abigail would be happy to contribute. I didn't realize she cared so little about giving back to you both. And there it was again, the expert manipulation positioning herself as the loving daughter, while casting me as uncaring and selfish. To my surprise, Mom wasn't buying it this time. Sophia, that's not fair and you know it. You know, this isn't about Abigail's feelings toward us. This is about you making financial decisions for her without her consent. Sophia looked genuinely shocked at our mother's response. She wasn't used to having her narrative challenged. I think, Dad said heavily, we need to return the car. What? No, Sophia protested. You can't do that. It's a gift. A gift that has now created a significant rift in our family, Dad pointed out. That's not what gifts are supposed to do. This is all Abigail's fault. Sophia stood up abruptly. If she would just contribute her fair share instead of being so selfish, everything would be fine. Without waiting for a response, she grabbed her purse and stormed out of the house. The front door slammed behind her, leaving the three of us sitting in stunned silence at the dining table. Mom reached across and squeezed my hand. I'm so sorry, Abigail. We had no idea. The simple acknowledgement brought tears to my eyes. For once, they had seen through Sophia's manipulation. For once, they were taking my side. I would have been happy to contribute to a gift I could afford, I explained, but $25,000 is more than half my annual salary after taxes. I'm still paying off student loans, and I'm trying to save for a house. Dad nodded, looking tired and suddenly much older. We understand, and we don't expect such extravagant gifts from either of you. Your presence in our lives is gift enough. We sat together for a long time, the pot roast growing cold on our plates, discussing years of family dynamics I'd never felt able to address before. It was painful, but also oddly cathartic, like lancing a wound that had been festering for decades. As I drove home that night, I felt both drained and somehow lighter. The confrontation I had feared for so long had finally happened, and while it hadn't been pretty, perhaps it was the first step toward a more honest relationship with my family. What I didn't expect was the panicked phone call I would receive from Sophia just a week later, one that would reveal just how deep her deception went. The following Wednesday, I was working from home when my phone rang. Sophia's name flashed on the screen. After our blowout at the family dinner, we hadn't spoken at all. I considered letting it go to voicemail but decided against it. Whatever this was, I needed to face it directly. "Hello," I answered, keeping my tone neutral. "Abigail, I need your help." Sophia's voice was trembling, a far cry from her usual confident tone. "Everything's falling apart." I braced myself for another manipulation tactic. "What's going on?" "The bank called about the car loan," she said, her words tumbling out rapidly. "They're threatening to repossess the car and report me to the credit bureaus. I missed the last 2 payments and they won't give me any more extensions." This confirmed my suspicion that Sophia hadn't paid for the car outright. "I thought you said you could afford this just fine," I reminded her, unable to keep the edge from my voice. "I lied, okay?" she snapped, then immediately softened her tone. "I'm sorry, I'm in trouble, Abby, serious trouble." Despite everything, the genuine fear in her voice tugged at my heart. This was my little sister, the girl who had once crawled into my bed during thunderstorms because she was afraid of the lightning. "Tell me what's really going on," I said. "All of it this time." There was a long pause, followed by a deep, shuddering breath. "I lost my job 3 months ago," Sophia finally admitted. "The firm downsized and I was among the first to go." 3 months. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" "Because I was embarrassed," she cried. "I was the successful one, the one with the fancy job and the perfect life. I couldn't bear to tell Mom and Dad that I failed." "Losing a job isn't failing, Sophia. It happens to everyone at some point." "Not to me," she insisted. "Not to the golden child who always gets everything right. Do you know how much pressure that is? To always be perfect." I'd never considered that Sophia might feel pressured by the very pedestal our parents had placed her on. It was an interesting reversal of perspective. "So you've been unemployed for 3 months. What have you been living on?" Another pause. "Credit cards, personal loans. I've been interviewing, but nothing has panned out yet. I thought something would come through before things got too bad, but now I'm drowning in debt. The car was supposed to be, I don't know, a distraction, I guess. Something to make Mom and Dad proud while I figured things out. And you thought I would just hand over $25,000, no questions asked." "I thought you'd understand the pressure I'm under," she exclaimed. "You're always so responsible, so together." I needed help, but I was too proud to ask directly. "So instead you tried to manipulate me into paying half your car loan?" I summarized flatly. "It sounds terrible when you put it that way," she mumbled. "Because it is terrible, Sophia. This isn't how sisters treat each other." "I know that now," she said quietly. "But Abigail, I really am in serious financial trouble. The car is just the tip of the iceberg. I have maxed out credit cards, personal loans coming due, and rent I can barely afford. I was dating this guy Jonathan, who works in investment banking. He was helping me keep up appearances, but when he found out I lost my job, he dumped me." The picture was becoming clearer. Sophia's perfect life had been a mirage maintained through debt and deception. "How much do you owe in total?" I asked, dreading the answer. "Including the car, about $90,000, she whispered. The number hit me like a physical blow. 90,000? Sophia, that's insane. How did you accumulate that much debt in 3 months? "It wasn't all in 3 months, she admitted. I've been living beyond my means for years. Designer clothes, luxury vacations, expensive dinners. I wanted everyone to think I was successful, especially Mom and Dad. Especially you." "Me, why me?" "Because you've always been the smart one," she said, surprising me. "The one with the real talents. I had to work so hard just to get the attention you deserve naturally. Do you know how many hours I spent studying for tests you would have aced without trying? How many school clubs I joined just to have achievements to report at dinner?" This was a side of Sophia I'd never seen before, vulnerable and insecure. All these years I'd thought she was the confident golden child who had everything handed to her, while she apparently saw me as the naturally gifted sister she could never measure up to. "We need to tell Mom and Dad the truth," I said finally. "All of it." "No." The panic in her voice was immediate. "They'll be so disappointed in me. They'll be more disappointed if they find out later after things get even worse," I pointed out. "Besides, they already know about the car situation." "But they don't know about the rest of it," she protested. "The job loss, the debt. They think I'm still their perfect, successful daughter." "Perfect isn't real, Sophia, and maintaining this facade is clearly destroying you. It's time for honesty." After much coaxing, she finally agreed to meet with our parents that weekend. In the meantime, I suggested she bring all her financial documents to my apartment so we could assess the full extent of the damage. When she arrived the next evening, Sophia looked like a shadow of herself. Gone were the designer clothes and perfect makeup, replaced by jeans, a simple sweater, and dark circles under her eyes. Spread across my dining table, her financial reality was even grimmer than I'd imagined. Credit card statements showed minimum payments barely covering the interest. The car loan was underwater, meaning she owed more than the vehicle was worth. She had taken out personal loans at predatory interest rates to cover other payments. "This is a mess," I said honestly, "but not an unfixable one." "How could it possibly be fixed?" she asked hopelessly. "I don't have a job, and even if I found one tomorrow, it would take years to pay all this off." "It will take time," I agreed. "But the first step is to stop digging the hole deeper. No more luxury purchases, no more keeping up appearances. It's time to live within your means, maybe even below them for a while." I spent the next few hours creating a spreadsheet that outlined a debt management plan. It wasn't pretty, and it would require significant lifestyle changes for Sophia, but it was doable. "The car has to go," I said firmly. "It's the biggest single expense and the easiest to eliminate." "But what about mom and dad? They love that car." "They'll understand when we explain everything. Trust me, they'd rather have their daughter back on solid financial footing than drive a luxury car." The next day, I called our parents and arranged to meet with them privately without Sophia present. I needed to prepare them for what they were about to learn. We met at a quiet cafe near their house. Mom looked worried from the moment she sat down. "Is this about Sophia? We haven't heard from her since she stormed out last week." "It is," I confirmed. "But there's more to the story than just the car, and I wanted to give you a heads up before we all meet tomorrow." I explained what Sophia had revealed to me: the job loss, the mounting debt, the facade of success she'd been maintaining at tremendous financial cost. I watched their expressions shift from concern to shock to profound sadness. "How could we not have known?" Mom whispered, tears in her eyes. "Our own daughter was in such trouble and we had no idea." "Because she worked very hard to hide it," I explained gently. "Sophia has always felt she needed to be perfect in your eyes. That's a standard no one can maintain forever." Dad looked down at his coffee, his expression troubled. "We did that to her, didn't we? All those years of praise for her achievements, her popularity. We helped create this pressure cooker she's been living in." "You're not entirely to blame," I said. "We all played our parts in this family dynamic, including me." "You—" Mom looked surprised. "How—" "I accepted my role as the less favored child," I said honestly. "I stopped competing for your attention because I believed I could never win. That pushed Sophia to work even harder to maintain her position as the golden child." Mom reached across the table and took my hand, her eyes brimming with tears. "Abigail, I had no idea you felt that way. We never meant to favor either of you." "Intentions aside, that was the reality," I said, not unkindly. "But we can't change the past. What matters now is how we move forward. Sophia needs support, not judgment. She's terrified of disappointing you both." Dad straightened his shoulders, a determined look replacing his earlier dismay. "We'll help her through this, whatever it takes." "Good," I said with relief, "because she's going to need all of us, starting with an honest conversation about that car." Saturday afternoon found the four of us gathered in my parents' living room. Sophia sat perched on the edge of the sofa, looking like she might bolt at any moment. Mom and Dad sat across from her, their expressions carefully neutral. I positioned myself beside Sophia, a silent show of support despite our recent conflicts. "I have something to tell you both," Sophia began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I lost my job 3 months ago." To their credit, our parents didn't interrupt or rush to reassure her. They simply listened as Sophia finally unburdened herself, revealing the elaborate house of cards she'd constructed over the years. The job loss, the mounting debt, the desperate attempt to maintain appearances by buying them an expensive car she couldn't afford. "I thought I could figure it out before things got too bad," she explained, tears streaming down her face. "I kept thinking the next interview would be the one that I'd get a new job and somehow catch up on all these payments. But it just kept getting worse and I panicked." "So you tried to drag Abigail into your financial mess?" Dad said, his tone not accusatory but seeking understanding. Sophia nodded miserably. "I know it was wrong. I was desperate and not thinking clearly. I convinced myself that if we shared the cost of the car, it would somehow solve everything else too." "And now," Mom asked gently, "what happens now, honey?" Sophia looked at me, and I gave her an encouraging nod. "Abigail has helped me create a financial recovery plan," she said, straightening slightly. "The first step is returning the car. It's the largest expense and the easiest to eliminate." "But you can't just return a car," Dad pointed out. It doesn't work that way once you've driven it off the lot. No, I agreed. But we can sell it back to the dealership. They'll take a hit on the value, but Sophia will still owe the difference between the sale price and the loan balance. It's better than continuing to make payments she can't afford on a rapidly depreciating asset. What about your credit score? Mom asked Sophia. Won't this hurt that too? My credit is already damaged from missed payments, Sophia admitted, but not as badly as it will be if the car gets repossessed, which is what will happen if I don't act soon. We don't need such an expensive car anyway, Dad said firmly. Your mother and I were perfectly happy with our old Toyota. It might not have been fancy, but it got us where we needed to go. We can find something reliable that's within a reasonable budget, I suggested. A certified pre-owned vehicle with low mileage would serve the same purpose without the luxury price tag. Sophia looked between our parents anxiously. Are you terribly disappointed in me? Mom moved to sit beside her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. Disappointed that you felt you couldn't come to us when you were in trouble. Yes, disappointed in you as a person. Never. We're proud of you for having the courage to tell us the truth now, Dad added. That takes real strength, Sophia. I don't feel strong, she whispered. I feel like a failure. Join the club, I said with a small smile. None of us are perfect, Soph. We all make mistakes. The question is what we do afterward. Your sister is right, Dad said. It's time we all stop pretending to be something we're not. This family needs more honesty and less performance. Sophia looked at me, real remorse in her eyes. I've been terrible to you, Abigail. All these years competing, undermining, trying to make myself look better by making you look worse. I don't know if you can ever forgive me. I already have, I said simply. You're my sister. That hasn't changed. We spent the next few hours outlining a concrete plan. The car would go back to the dealership on Monday. Dad knew a reliable mechanic who could help us find a good used car within a reasonable budget. Mom offered their spare bedroom to Sophia, so she could give up her expensive apartment while job hunting. I agreed to help her negotiate with creditors to set up manageable payment plans. It wouldn't be easy, and Sophia's financial recovery would take years rather than months. But for the first time, we were facing these challenges as a united family rather than as competitors. As the conversation wound down, Dad cleared his throat. I think your mother and I owe you both an apology as well, he said solemnly. We created an environment where Sophia felt she had to be perfect, and Abigail felt she could never measure up. That's on us, not on either of you. Mom nodded, wiping away tears. We thought we were being supportive parents, but we were actually putting impossible pressure on both of you in different ways. Can you forgive us for that? There's nothing to forgive, I said, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. We're all learning how to be better together. Sophia, looking exhausted, but somehow lighter than I'd seen her in years, nodded in agreement. I think I need to learn how to define success differently, she admitted. Money and status clearly haven't made me happy or fulfilled. What would... Mom asked with genuine curiosity. Sophia considered the question seriously. Honestly, I don't know yet, but I'd like the chance to figure it out without the pressure to maintain a certain image. That, Dad said warmly, sounds like the beginning of real wisdom. As we prepared to leave that evening, Sophia pulled me aside. Thank you, she said quietly, for not abandoning me even when I tried to manipulate you, for seeing the real problem when I couldn't. That's what big sisters do, I replied, giving her a genuine hug for what felt like the first time in decades. We look out for each other even when one of us is being a complete pain in the butt. Her startled laugh was the sweetest sound I'd heard in a long time. 6 months later, we gathered in my parents' backyard for a Sunday barbecue. The weather was perfect warm sunshine, tempered by a gentle breeze. Dad stood proudly at the grill flipping burgers and arguing good-naturedly with our uncle about the optimal cooking temperature for steaks. Mom bustled between the kitchen and patio, setting out bowls of salad and plates of corn on the cob. Cousins, aunts, and uncles milled about catching up on family news and stealing chips from the snack table when they thought no one was looking. Parked in the driveway was a 3-year-old Toyota Camry, practical and reliable, purchased with the money from selling back the Lexus. The car had been a joint decision with all 4 of us test driving different options before settling on one that met our parents' needs without breaking the bank. Sophia arrived last, having come directly from her new job as an administrative assistant at a local community college. The position paid less than half of what she'd earned in finance, but it came with tuition benefits she was using to take courses in education. She had discovered, somewhat to her surprise, that she had a talent for teaching and a passion for helping others learn. "Sorry I'm late," she called, setting down a modest fruit platter she'd brought. "Staff meeting ran over." She looked different now, dressed in simple, affordable clothes, her hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. But the biggest change was in her eyes, which held a genuine contentment I hadn't seen since we were children. "Just in time," Dad announced. "Burgers are coming off the grill." Sophia joined me at one of the patio tables, stealing a carrot stick from my plate. "How's the new project coming along?" she asked. "Challenging, but interesting," I replied. "The client keeps changing specifications, but my team is adaptable." "That's because they have a great leader," she said, with a sincerity that still sometimes caught me off guard. We were relearning how to be sisters without the undercurrent of competition that had defined our relationship for so long. Mom brought over 2 glasses of iced tea. "My girls together and getting along still feels like a miracle sometimes." "Not a miracle," I corrected gently. "Just the result of being honest with each other for a change." Sophia nodded in agreement. "Turns out pretending to be perfect is exhausting. Being flawed but authentic is much easier. And your father and I are learning to appreciate both our daughters for who they actually are, not who we thought they should be," Mom added. Across the yard, I could see Dad showing our youngest cousin how to check if the burgers were done. He had always been a patient teacher, a quality Sophia seemed to have inherited without realizing it. Sophia's financial situation was still far from ideal. She had moved from our parents' spare room into a shared apartment with 2 roommates. Her debt repayment plan would keep her on a tight budget for at least 5 more years, but she was making progress both financially and emotionally. More importantly, our family dynamics had undergone a profound shift. The unspoken competition between Sophia and me had given way to a supportive relationship based on our actual strengths and weaknesses. Our parents had become more mindful of how their words and actions affected us, taking care to show appreciation for our different qualities without drawing comparisons. "Sometimes I still can't believe how everything turned out," Sophia mused, watching the family gathering with thoughtful eyes. "When I sent you that invoice for the car, I was at my lowest point, desperate and terrified. I never imagined it would lead to all this." "All what?" I asked. She gestured vaguely around us. "Healing, growth, actually liking myself instead of constantly trying to prove my worth through expensive things and achievements." I understood what she meant. The crisis that had threatened to tear our family apart had instead forced us to confront long-standing issues we might otherwise have continued to ignore. "It's like Dad always says," I replied. "Sometimes you need to hit rock bottom before you can start building a solid foundation." "Wise man, our father," Sophia agreed with a smile. I wish I'd listened to him sooner. Later that afternoon, as the extended family began to depart, the 4 of us found ourselves sitting together on the back porch. The conversation flowed easily, touching on everything from Dad's gardening plans to Mom's book club to Sophia's classes. "We're thinking of taking a road trip next month," Dad mentioned. "Nothing fancy, just driving up the coast for a few days. The Camry gets excellent gas mileage. Much more sensible than that overpriced Lexus," Mom added with a laugh. "Though I will admit the heated seats were nice." "We can get seat warmers installed in the Camry if you want," Sophia offered. "It's a reasonable upgrade that won't break the bank." "Look at you being all financially responsible," I teased gently. "Who are you and what have you done with my sister?" Sophia grinned. "She grew up. Finally." As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the yard, I found myself reflecting on the journey we'd taken as a family. The invoice for a car I never agreed to buy had been the catalyst for conversations we should have had years ago, for truths that needed to be spoken, for wounds that needed to be acknowledged before they could heal. Sometimes the greatest challenges bring the most valuable opportunities for growth. My sister's desperate attempt to maintain her image of perfection had ultimately freed her from the exhausting burden of that facade. My parents' realization of their role in creating unhealthy dynamics had opened the door to more authentic relationships with both their daughters. And I had found my voice standing up for myself while still extending compassion to my struggling sister. "You know what I've learned from all this," Sophia said, breaking the comfortable silence. "That sometimes the moments that force us to face uncomfortable truths are the very ones that set us free from the weight of expectations we never asked for." As we sat together in the gathering dusk, I couldn't help but think she was right. Sometimes our greatest failures become the foundation for our most meaningful successes, not measured in dollars or status, but in the authentic connections we forge with those we love. Have you ever experienced a moment of forced honesty that changed your family dynamics? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe for more real-life stories, and share this video with someone who might need to hear that perfection is overrated, and authenticity is the real gift we can give each other. Thank you for listening. And remember, sometimes the hardest conversations lead to the most beautiful beginnings.